what if the reason your side project is failing has nothing to do with um, the actual quality of your product?
Right.
And it has everything to do with your brain treating a missed sales goal like a literal tiger attack.
Which it absolutely does.
It really does.
Yeah.
So today, we are dismantling the two things that basically kill businesses and creative projects before they even get off the ground.
Yeah, the biological dread of failing and the psychological minefield of pricing yourself.
Exactly. We are pulling some incredibly actionable excerpt today from Chapter 6 of a guide called Hustle Smarter, Not Harder.
It's a great chapter.
It is. And if you are out there building something, a business, a freelance career, maybe a new creative offer, you already know the sheer amount of conflicting advice out there.
That's overwhelming, honestly.
Yeah, it's just noise. So our mission today is to cut through that noise and give you a really concentrated session of actionable knowledge.
We want to turn failure from a dead end into a precision tool.
And remove that invisible ceiling that's capping your income. So, okay, let's unpack this, because this deep dive is your shortcut to mastering these concepts without the information overload.
And we really have to start with failure, right? Because redefining failure is the prerequisite for literally everything else.
Right. And the source material takes a very firm stance on this right out of the gate.
It does. It says that failing at a new venture isn't a sign that you lack talent. It doesn't mean the market hates you.
Yeah, it's not personal.
Not at all. It is simply a feature of the scientific method of business. I mean, the variable that separates people who build something lasting from those who just, quietly give up, it isn't the absence of failure.
No, it's the speed and the intelligence of how they respond to it.
Exactly. When you launch something and just hear crickets, you haven't hit a wall. You've just generated a data point.
A very painful data point, but a data point. And the numbers backing up this whole data point mindset are just staggering.
They really are.
Like, studies of successful startups show that companies that pivot their strategy at least once raise 2.5 times more money.
Wow.
Right. And they experience 3.6 times better user growth.
That's a massive difference.
Yeah. And they're 52% less likely to scale prematurely and just burn through all their cash.
Which happens all the time.
All the time. So the data tells us the best companies pivot. But the obvious question then becomes, well, how do you know when you're actually supposed to pivot versus when you just need to put your head down and work harder?
Right, because that line is blurry. But the guide breaks this down into a framework called reading the real signal.
I really like that name.
Yeah, and it gives very strict, objective criteria to just, remove the emotion entirely from the decision.
So how does it define when you should persist?
Well, it says you should persist, meaning, stick to your current plan when you see early green shoots.
Okay, but what does that actually mean? Like $1 million in revenue?
No, not at all. It means literally one truly delighted customer who got the result you promised. Or even just an unprompted referral.
Just one.
Just one. You also have to persist if you are inside your first 60 days.
Because nobody knows you exist yet.
Exactly. It takes time for the market to even realize you're there. And most importantly, you have to persist if your effort has been inconsistent.
Oh, that's a big one.
You cannot blame a strategy for failing if you haven't actually applied it with sustained focus.
Right. It's like you can't declare a new workout program a failure if you only went to the gym once on a Tuesday.
And then sat on the couch for 2 weeks.
Exactly. But the criteria for when to pivot are equally rigid.
Very rigid. The text says you pivot when you have put in 60 to 90 days of genuine, consistent effort and you have absolutely zero traction.
Zero.
Or you pivot when multiple potential customers give you clear, unvarnished feedback that they simply will not pay for the solution.
They just don't want it.
Right. You also pivot when the core economics are broken. So meaning the profit margins are just too thin to survive on, or the time investment required to deliver the product is completely unsustainable for you as a human being.
You're just burning out.
Exactly. What's fascinating here is how the text directly attacks this really deeply ingrained cultural narrative we all have.
Which one?
The whole, winners never quit and quitters never win thing.
Oh.
From childhood, we're taught that blind, unrelenting commitment is just a virtue in itself, regardless of the outcome.
Okay, I have to challenge this a little bit, or at least play devil's advocate for the listener who is grinding away right now.
Sure.
Is pivoting just a fancy, guilt-free word for quitting when things get hard?
Yeah.
Because I could hear a chorus of hustle culture influencers screaming that if you change direction, You just didn't want it badly enough.
And that is precisely the myth the text is trying to dismantle. Strategic quitting is actually a superpower.
A superpower.
Yeah, because the most successful entrepreneurs quit failing strategies ruthlessly and rapidly. They do it so they can redirect their finite energy toward what actually works.
Oh, okay.
The trap here is the sunk cost fallacy. It's that human tendency to keep throwing good money, time, and emotional energy into a losing project just because you've already invested heavily in it.
Right. You feel like you can't walk away.
Exactly. The author beautifully summarizes this by saying that holding on to a sinking approach out of pride isn't commitment. It's just stubbornness dressed up in virtue language.
Stubbornness dressed up in virtue language. That is a brilliant way to frame it.
It really hits home.
It does. So if we understand that we shouldn't just stubbornly go down with the ship, but we also weren't, blowing everything up and quitting the industry entirely,
Right.
what exactly are we changing? This leads us directly into the mechanics of how to actually pivot.
Because most pivots do not require you to burn your entire business down and start from scratch, a pivot is meant to be a surgical adjustment. Yes, you're changing one specific variable based on what the market has actually told you while keeping the rest of your underlying foundation completely intact.
I look at this like an audio engineer sitting at a massive mixing board in a recording studio,
Oh, that's a good analogy.
right? If you're listening to a track and the acoustic guitar is way too loud, you don't smash the entire soundboard with a hammer and fire the band.
No, you just adjust the levels.
You just pull the guitar fader down and maybe push the vocal fader up. You isolate the problem and tweak the variables. And the source actually gives us 5 specific sliders or pivot types that we can adjust.
Let's dissect those 5 sliders because understanding the mechanism behind each one is crucial.
Okay, what's slider number 1?
First is the audience pivot. This means you have built the right product, but you're trying to sell it to the wrong buyer.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, imagine you built a highly technical productivity system. Corporate middle managers might find it way too complex, but freelance software developers might think it's exactly what they need.
So you don't change the product at all.
You don't change a single word of the content. You just change the packaging and who you are talking to.
Okay, that makes sense.
Second is the problem pivot. Here, you have the right audience, but you are solving the wrong problem for them.
Meaning what?
You have their attention, but through talking to them, you realize their actual pain point is one step upstream or maybe downstream from what you built.
Got it. Okay, the third slider is the format pivot.
Which is a big one.
Yeah, this is when you have the right knowledge and the right audience, but the delivery vehicle is causing friction because the buyer psychology is completely different depending on the format.
Oh, absolutely.
Like an online video course might not sell because people are just overwhelmed with information.
They don't have time to watch hours of video.
Exactly. But those exact same people would happily pay double for a live 4-week cohort where they actually get accountability. The information is identical.
But the format changes the perceived value entirely.
Exactly. Okay, slider number 4.
Fourth is the price pivot. You might actually have the perfect offer, but the economics are sending the wrong signal.
Wait, a price can't send a signal.
Definitely. If you price a premium consulting service too low, corporate clients might actually avoid it because the low price signals low quality or a lack of expertise to them.
They think, oh, it's cheap, so it must not be good.
Exactly. So the text recommends testing your price 20% higher and then 20% lower before concluding that the offer itself is broken.
That's a great test.
And finally, the channel pivot. Right offer, right price, but wrong distribution pond.
The wrong pond.
Yeah, if you are trying to sell high-end enterprise software by posting on TikTok, the channel is the bottleneck. You might just need warm email introductions on LinkedIn instead.
That makes total sense. And to see how these sliders work in the real world, the book shares this incredible case study about a founder named Kemi.
Oh, I love this story.
It's so good. She spent months building this really sleek meal planning app specifically designed for busy corporate professionals.
Yeah, she invested a ton of time.
She does all the coding, she launches it, and 3 months later, the data is just brutal. I mean, 28 downloads, terrible user retention, and 0 word-of-mouth referrals. Basically, a complete flop.
And in the traditional narrative, this is the exact moment someone deletes the code, declares the health and wellness market, quote unquote, too saturated, and just walks away defeated.
But she didn't do that.
No, Kemi ran the pivot analysis instead. She evaluated her variables. She realized the audience was still correct, Busy corporate professionals absolutely still struggle with finding time to meal plan.
Right. The problem was validated.
Exactly.
The bottleneck was the format. An app requires a user to download something new, create a login, learn a new interface, and remember to actually open it daily.
It's just massive friction.
Huge friction for an already busy person. So she didn't quit the business, she executed a format pivot.
A brilliant one.
Yeah, she scrapped the app completely and switched to delivering a weekly meal plan via WhatsApp broadcast list.
Smart.
Completely manual, high touch, and involved zero custom software. Same audience, same problem. Totally different delivery vehicle that met the users where they already were.
And the mechanism of lowering that friction changed everything. By week 6 of the WhatsApp format, she had 40 paying subscribers at $25 a month.
Wow.
That is $1,000 in monthly recurring revenue. And the total financial cost of that pivot, $0.
Unbelievable.
The time it took to execute was a single afternoon.
See, that perfectly illustrates the power of a surgical adjustment versus just, smashing the soundboard.
Exactly.
Here's the cruel irony, though. Knowing how to pivot logically doesn't make the initial flop hurt any less.
Oh, not at all. It stings.
The gap between knowing you need to pivot and having the emotional bandwidth to actually do it is massive. I feel like emotions can completely derail logical adjustment.
They do constantly. The source material addresses this head-on with a section on emotional reality. And the central mantra here is, the flop is data. It is not your destiny.
The flop is data. I like that.
But recognizing a failure as just a piece of data requires overriding your own biology, which is why they introduced the post-flop recovery protocol.
This 5-step protocol is an absolute lifesaver. Step 1. Wait 24 to 48 hours.
Yes.
Do absolutely nothing strategy related while you are stinging from the embarrassment.
Just breathe.
Exactly. Step 2. Write down the objective facts on a piece of paper. Not your feelings of inadequacy, just the raw numerical data of what actually occurred.
Just the numbers.
Step 3. Get 3 honest outside perspectives. And the quote they use here is, phenomenal eye. Ego protection is expensive.
It is incredibly expensive because if you only seek feedback from friends who just, pat you on the back and tell you the market just isn't ready for your genius.
Right. Your mom telling you it's correct.
Yeah, you are paying for comfort with your business's future. You never actually learn the mechanics of why it failed.
That's a huge trap.
So step 4 of the protocol is to identify the core false assumption. Every single flop is rooted in a hypothesis you had about your customer's behavior or desires that proved incorrect in the real world. You have to name it.
Right.
And finally, step 5, design the smallest, cheapest, fastest possible next test to check a new assumption.
The book also suggests keeping a lessons log, which is super helpful. You track what you tried, what your assumption was, what actually happened, the false assumption that got revealed, and then what slider you're going to adjust next.
And there's a brilliant pro tip attached to this.
Oh, sharing it publicly.
Yes, share these logs publicly as content.
Which sounds terrifying.
It does, but writing a post that says, hey, here is the hypothesis I tested, here's how spectacularly it failed, and here's the exact pivot I'm making that vastly outperforms heavily polished fake success stories.
Because authenticity is the scarcest asset on the internet right now.
Exactly.
But taking a step back, I kind of have to push back on the emotional reality of this.
Okay, go for it.
How do you actually force yourself to objectively analyze a flop and log it when every fiber of your being is profoundly embarrassed? I mean, my instinct is to hide under the covers, delete the launch post, and just pretend it never happened.
And this raises an important question about how our brains process professional grief.
Professional grief. Wow.
Yeah. Your amygdala, the brain's ancient alarm system, it's designed to protect you from physical threats, like a literal tiger attack.
Right.
But it cannot distinguish between the physical threat of a tiger and the social threat of a failed public launch.
Seriously.
Seriously. It perceives a flop as a threat of social exile, which triggers a literal fight, flight, or freeze response. That is exactly why your instinct is to hide under the covers.
So it's not just a lack of willpower or me being weak. It's a physiological system override.
Yeah.
The alarm bells are ringing so loudly that you literally cannot think strategically.
Exactly. When the amygdala is firing, your prefrontal cortex, which is the logical CEO part of your brain that analyzes data and makes plans, it's essentially locked out of the room.
It's offline.
Completely offline. And the source explicitly validates this. You are allowed to feel disappointed and embarrassed. Suppressing that is actually dishonest.
Right. You're human.
But what you cannot do is let that temporary physiological state dictate permanent business decisions. The 24 to 48-hour pause in the protocol isn't just a nice suggestion, it is biologically mandatory.
Mandatory.
It gives your nervous system time to clear the stress hormones so your prefrontal cortex can come back online and actually look at the mixing board with clear eyes.
That completely recontextualizes the problem for me.
Yeah.
The pause isn't procrastination, it's just waiting for the biological alarm to turn off.
Exactly.
Now, this creates a really interesting narrative bridge. Because let's assume you follow the protocol. You calm down, you execute a surgical pivot, and suddenly the market responds. You have a vastly more valuable product.
Which is the goal.
Right. But because you just survived a painful flop, your internal confidence is at an all-time low. This creates a dangerous gap between the new high value of your product and the price you actually have the courage to ask for.
That gap is a killer.
So we are shifting from the operational hurdle of failure to the deep psychological hurdle of pricing yourself.
And the transition from building to selling is where most people freeze. Which brings us to what the text calls the invisible ceiling.
The invisible ceiling.
This section opens with a quote that honestly should be written on a sticky note on every creator's monitor.
What's the quote?
Every pricing decision you make is a statement about how much you believe in the value you create.
Man, that hits like a ton of bricks. Every price tag is just a mirror reflecting your own self-worth back at you.
It truly is. The author goes out of their way to stress that money mindset is not some fluffy new age concept.
It's not woo-woo.
Not at all. It is a deeply ingrained structural set of beliefs and assumptions that were literally downloaded into your brain during childhood.
Right.
It's shaped by how your parents talked about money at the dinner table, your cultural background, your early career experiences. Those structural beliefs literally dictate what you subconsciously believe you are allowed to earn.
Okay, here's where it gets really interesting. I view these inherited money blocks like wearing someone else's heavy prescription glasses.
Oh, that's a good way to look at it.
Right. You put them on, and they completely distort how you view your own value and the world around you. You get a headache, you stumble around undercharging people, and the tragic part is it's not even your prescription to begin with.
You're wearing your parents' glasses.
Exactly. You just inherited them. The text outlines 5 common sets of these distorted glasses or blocks that we need to identify and just take off.
Let's examine the mechanics of those 5 blocks and the specific reframes required to dismantle them.
Let's do it. What's block 1?
Block 1 is the visceral belief that charging a lot makes me greedy or selfish.
I hear that all the time.
It's so common, and this almost always stems from childhood environments where wealth was viewed with suspicion or associated with exploitation.
So how do we reframe that?
The mechanical reframe here is that charging a premium price actually allows you to serve the client better.
How so?
It means you aren't rushing through their project to get to the next one just to pay your rent. It allows you to invest in better tools, hire support, and sustain your energy so you actually deliver a superior result.
That makes a lot of sense. Block 2 is a massive hurdle, especially for first-generation entrepreneurs. It's the belief that people like me don't make this kind of money.
Yes.
This is usually rooted in a historical lack of representation in your family or your community. And the reframe the book gives is a hard truth. Historical limitations are not predictive of your future capacity.
They don't dictate your future.
Exactly. Income generation is a learnable mechanical skill like coding or carpentry. It is not an aristocratic birthright.
That's a powerful reframe. Block 3 is the crippling feeling of not being experienced enough to charge premium rates.
Oh, imposter syndrome.
Exactly, which happens because you are comparing your Chapter 1 to an industry veteran's Chapter 20.
Right. You're looking at the expert.
The reframe relies on understanding how the market actually values things. Experience is entirely relative to your specific client's current position.
Explain that a bit more.
If you are 3 steps ahead of the client and possess the specific knowledge to solve the exact bottleneck they are facing right now, you have experience that is highly valuable to them. They don't need the world's leading expert. They just need someone to get them over their immediate hurdle.
That takes so much pressure off. Okay, block 4. Talking about money is uncomfortable, impolite, or inappropriate.
Very common in certain cultures.
Yeah. The reframe. A money conversation is simply a professional parameter-setting conversation.
That's it.
Total clarity about price protects both the buyer and the seller from future resentment. If saying your price out loud makes your voice shake, That isn't a sign that you are doing something wrong. It is just a mechanical skill deficit that you can practice and learn.
And finally, block 5, which is pure scarcity psychology.
Let me guess. If I raise my prices, I'll lose everyone.
Exactly. If I raise my prices, I will lose all my clients. The reality of market mechanics is that raising your prices actually acts as a filter.
A filter.
Yes, you will likely lose clients, specifically the lowest value, most demanding, price shopping clients who just drain your energy.
The ones who complain the most anyway.
Right. But that higher price point simultaneously acts as a beacon. It signals quality and attracts higher value clients who respect your boundaries and actually implement your advice.
To help you figure out which of these blocks is actively choking your business, the text provides this income identity exercise.
That's a great exercise.
It's a series of questions, but question number 5 is the absolute kicker. It asks, what is one specific belief I am holding on to right now that is keeping me below my target revenue number?
Wow.
And the author insists that answering that question is your most important daily work, because that belief is the actual structural ceiling on your business. You have to name the belief, drag it into the light, challenge it with objective evidence, and then mechanically raise your price.
If we connect this to the bigger picture, the profound underlying truth the text reveals is that undercharging doesn't actually do your client any favors.
It doesn't.
No, undercharging only serves your own fear of judgment. When you undercharge, a very predictable biological cascade happens.
What happens?
You eventually resent the work, you rush the deliverables because you need to take on more volume to survive, and you burn out. Ultimately, your fear of charging what you are worth results in the client receiving a subpar product.
That paradigm shift changes everything.
Yeah.
You aren't doing them a favor by being cheap. You are basically guaranteeing a worse outcome.
Exactly.
Okay, so you execute the pivot, you dismantle the psychological blocks, you raise your prices, and the ultimate validation happens. The money actually starts rolling in.
The best feeling.
It is. But surviving the launch and fixing your mindset means nothing if you fail the final test. How do you handle the cash so you don't instantly suffocate the business you just fought so hard to build?
And this transitions us into the mechanics of practical cash management.
The math part.
The math part, yeah. The text establishes strict, non-negotiable rules for handling early-stage business revenue. First, you must open a separate business bank account the very same day you make your first dollar.
Do not mix it up.
No. Mixing personal grocery expenses with software subscriptions creates cognitive overload and makes tracking profitability impossible.
Second rule.
Yeah.
You must instantly transfer 25 to 30% of every single payment into a separate tax account before you even look at the balance.
Before you even think about it.
You have to operate as if that money never existed. Third, you pay yourself a fixed predetermined percentage into a personal savings account before you pay any discretionary business expenses.
Fourth is the discipline of tracking every single cent coming in and going out from day one using dedicated software or a robust spreadsheet.
And the fifth rule is aggressively building a 3-month business emergency fund before using any of that business income to upgrade your personal lifestyle.
No new cars yet.
Right. Okay, I have to interject here because I know exactly how the creative builder persona listener is reacting to this list.
Oh, they hate it.
Spreadsheets, tax accounts, monthly reconciliations. It sounds paralyzingly tedious. The people listening to this want to build apps, write books, design products, not cosplay as Wall Street accountants. Can't we just operate on intuition? Like, if the bank account has money in it, we're fine, right? Why do we need the intense spreadsheet tracking?
Look, I completely understand the resistance to administrative work. I really do. But the text argues that financial visibility is not about accounting. It is a direct competitive advantage.
How is it an advantage?
Because the monthly review they mandate, which is simply checking total income, fixed expenses, profit margin, and pending invoices, it takes a maximum of 10 minutes.
10 minutes.
Yes. Intuition is a terrible financial tool. Trusting your gut is precisely how a creator ends up with a massive, unexpected tax bill in April that literally bankrupts their side hustle.
Oh, that happens all the time.
The mechanical discipline of looking at the numbers separates a fragile hobby from a resilient business.
Okay, that synthesis makes a lot of sense. People hear tracking and assume it means hours of data entry, which triggers spreadsheet paralysis.
Right.
But what you're saying is that this is just a 10-minute reality check, so you aren't flying the plane blindfolded. I can accept a 10-minute check.
And it pays off?
It does. And the text provides an incredibly strategic blueprint for exactly what to do with the first $1,000 of profit you generate. Because the instinct is to celebrate and buy something nice, to validate your hard work.
But the blueprint explicitly forbids that. It demands strategic reinvestment to build structural security.
So where does the $1,000 go?
It suggests allocating $200 to buy a professional tool or software that permanently saves you time. $300 goes into taking a course or buying books to upgrade a core skill that makes you faster or better. And the remaining $500 goes straight into that untouchable business emergency fund. You force the money to work for the business before it works for your lifestyle.
And the mechanism behind that emergency fund ties right back into what we discussed about pricing, doesn't it?
Precisely. That emergency fund physically alters your biology during a sales pitch.
That's fascinating.
It is. When you have 3 months of expenses sitting in a bank account, your nervous system is calm. You do not project desperation. You don't subconsciously lower your price just to secure the deal because you don't actually need their money to survive this month.
So you can stand your ground.
Exactly. That financial security gives you the posture and the leverage to hold firm on those new, higher prices, which ironically makes the client trust you more and increases your close rate.
So what does this all mean for you, the person listening right now, trying to get an idea off the ground? It means that building something lasting is not about being a visionary who perfectly predicts the market and never fails.
No, not at all.
It is a rigorous science of running small, cheap tests. It is about actively removing your biological ego from your flops and treating them purely as navigational data.
Yes.
It is about aggressively identifying and dismantling the inherited money blocks that are artificially capping your revenue. And it is about being absolutely ruthless with your early cash flow so your business actually survives long enough to thrive.
Every single concept we've unpacked today is inextricably linked. Your ability to execute a logical pivot depends entirely on your emotional management during a flop.
Right.
Your ability to confidently price that new pivot depends on your psychological self-awareness. And your ability to sustain the entire operation long-term relies on your unglamorous financial discipline. It is a complete ecosystem of resilience.
It really is all just data and mechanical adjustments. You pull a slider down, you push a slider up, no more hiding under the covers when the alarm bells ring.
Which brings us to a final thought I want you to sit with as you evaluate whatever project or hustle you are working on right now.
Lay it on us.
We established that a failure is not a dead end. It is purely a data point telling you which slider to adjust for your next microtest. And we also established that your current price ceiling is highly likely dictated by an inherited limiting belief rather than the actual reality of the market.
Okay.
So if we merge those two truths together, what if your biggest, most painful current flop or frustration isn't a signal that you should quit? What if that flop is actually the exact perfect setup required to justify a 20% price increase in your next iteration? Because by pivoting the format to reduce friction or pivoting the audience to find a more acute pain point, you instantly and dramatically increase the perceived value of your solution. The only thing standing between you and that reality is the willingness to run the experiment. So ask yourself, what is the absolute smallest, cheapest, fastest test you could run in the next 7 days to find out?